Welcome to Redefining ABCD.
Hello. So, for this Brown Art Network episode, me and Kirti are going to be talking about how social media affects the creative industry, what's the relationship between the two. We're going to dive into topics like, the positives and negatives of using TikTok or Twitter or something to, uplift your art and your business. And yeah, so it'll be great. It'll be awesome. I'm very excited for this conversation. To start us off, Kirti, maybe we're just going to describe a little bit about our own relationship to social media as well as our relationship to the creative industry. So,
Yeah, I think that's a good start. I think personally for me, social media has not really been a big driver in or an influence on my creative space type work, just because primarily being a dancer, I and like I'm going to be honest here. I'm doing it for fun more than just like a career or a side hustle at this moment in time, just because that's where my life is at right now. Just having to balance like co-op and college. I'm just going to wait till I take dance more seriously. So honestly, I use social media kind of just update people on what's going
yeah.
on in my life. I don't really do it anything else. So it doesn't really drive what I do creatively, whether it be like what type of projects I take on and what type of choreography I do. But it's just like a way to kind of have a portfolio online, so I can like
Mhm.
make people aware and potentially get opportunities. I'll be honest. I use all social media like LinkedIn, just kind of be like, hey guys, and do stuff like that. So for me, that's pretty much it in terms of social media influencing my creative work.
Yeah, so I think I had a very cynical take on social media just all together for a very, very long time. Um, I think it was like mostly driven by fear. Like I would just be horrified to post anything because, like it was a lot of like I was surrounded by people for a very long time that really, really would have a 24/7 satellite on me,
Hmm.
and they would really cared, how I presented myself because it was just not something that they were used to. They thought, I was like the weird one in the pack, and like every time I did something a little out of character, they would love to like pick on it and like judge me for it and like all that stuff. So I had a very cynical take on social media for a very long time. I think I still do to some extent, but I have been trying to alleviate that and be like, no, this is I'm not. And I think part of it is just me kind of trying to switch the mindset a little bit and being more like, again, like you said, like I'm only putting stuff out there to update the people that I care about. Like, because, like I'm giving life updates. That's it. Like, I just, and it's mostly for,
Yeah.
for a family as well. Like my parents, like sometimes they don't know what's going on in my life. So I'll post something or like extended family even, they'll ask me how I'm doing and I'll be like, okay, here I am. Like I'm putting an effort out there. Um, so I think I've started to alleviate that a little bit. And I guess I think the podcast for sure has helped. Let me put it out there. Like having to like, like if you asked me like even a year ago, like you should Kirti trying to convince me to like finally do like the promo videos and stuff. Like it's a thing. It's kind of horrifying. And again, like the YouTube stuff, like I never thought that we would get to this point, but we're here. So I'm very happy about it. In
I
terms of the
totally agree.
creative, right, like I think we've come far. I mean, I've come far. I don't know about you, but like I feel like I've come far in terms of my relationship to social media. But in terms of like the creative space, I haven't really found a way to, because I haven't really found a way to bridge the gap between like what I'm doing or what I did in studio or what I'm doing at like work or like my portfolio and stuff. I haven't figured out a way to bridge the gap between those two and like try to make myself more available and like approachable on social media in terms of the creative space. But, hopefully down the line when I have more time on my hands, I can start like, pushing that forward a little bit. I did make one I do have one account that says like architecture portfolio projects they have, you know, like it was cool. I had that, I made it, and then I never updated it. So I'm trying to get back on it. But that's my take on that. I don't know.
No, I was about to say like when you said like I relate to your cynical view on social media just because just as many people that care about you saw like in your circle, there are people who don't really care about you in your circle, whether you
Mm-hmm.
know it or not, truly. And you can kind of see that kind of in Instagram. Like when Instagram first came out, people were just kind of posting left and right. Like I remember 13-year-old Kirthi, random selfies, cringy
Yeah.
selfies. It's just because it's like a new thing. Like, whoa, there's an app that you can just share pictures with friends. But like nowadays, because it's used for like business and small like adventures and ideas and marketing, it's like is my picture quote unquote Instagrammable worthy? Like people have such standards now on social media. It's like, is it even worth kind of just like sharing my life on social media? So I totally get that. Like sometimes I'll be like, even though I've now become more carefree, like I don't really care if my picture is not artsy enough or whatever the lingo is. Like
Yeah.
I still have that in the back of my head. Like I'm like, this kind of looks like a 3-year-old post. Like not a 3-year-old. Okay, that's kind of taken it too far, but
Yeah,
like
give yourself more credit there. Come on now.
it's just like it doesn't seem Instagrammable. Like I have that in the back of my head, but then I'm like, oh fuck it, Kirthi. Like it's your life. Don't let people control it. Like I've got had to like get that mentality. So I totally get where you're coming from because man, like those standards, they just keep getting like higher and higher.
No, absolutely. And I feel like I don't know, like influencers and stuff on Instagram, I really do respect them in a certain way because damn,
Mm-hmm.
like there are so many influencers. Like if you would make that, if you decide that you want to become a social media influencer, you really really have to claw your way up there. And that's
Right.
crazy to me. Like you have to really put your life on the line and like really like publicize it to a certain extent. And you know the people that are doing it like as like a sole career choice, like I do respect them to some extent because it's so much work and effort and so much of your time that you're dedicating to look a certain way, you know, to craft this
Right.
image. And it's crazy that people are capable of that and are actively choosing to do that. And I think it makes, honestly, it's kind of humbling for me in that way because I'm like, okay, no, but they're doing it for their job. Like that's what they do. I am not doing it for my job. Therefore, I can separate myself from that a little bit and be like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't, there's no way in this universe that I can look, talk, and be like that. So I should just not try. Like, screw it. Like I can't live up to those standards. There's no world in which I can. And even if there is, like I don't think I like it just wouldn't feel like me anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of like, okay, that's also another thing that's helped me, I think, like start posting a little bit more and like being a little bit more active on social media just cuz like I know now I'm like, ah, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Just updating. Just updating. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Right. And it's like how much does it truly matter? Like you said
Yeah.
with influencers, I follow like all the like the South Asian influencers I follow, like they produce so much quality, amazing content. And then they'll like
Mhm.
post like behind the scenes and it's like I took me 8 hours and I had to do a shoot until like
Pose.
3 a.m. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like you're able to produce such quality content, but it's just kind of upsetting that like in Instagram all it is just like one click, like one double tap,
Yeah.
and like the person moves on from their day, and it's just like
Mhm.
3 seconds is like 8 hours of work to make a living. Like that's so hard. I can't imagine the that like pressure because I'm sure the metrics matter a lot for them in terms of getting monetary pay.
Yeah, yeah. No, and the standards are just creeping higher and higher, higher. You know, like there's always going to be
Right.
influencers. There's always, and I also thought about this. Like if if you do choose being an influencer on social media as your profession, what happens when you start getting older or you start not fitting the stereotypes of what people expect from you as an influencer? You know, or is that going to be
Mm-hmm.
like a new sort of like thing, like it's going to be, 50, 60 years from now, like, does age matter in this is my question, because that happens with like Hollywood. You see that in like Hollywood industry and like, yeah, film industry in general, where like
Mhm.
you get to a certain point and you just stop getting jobs, you stop getting people to like come for you and help you out and uplift you. And that's like, is that going to be translated into the social media world is my question. I
I
don't know, there's no
I
answer.
think that's hard to answer actually. Like that's a good point you bring up because one, just as much like as people say the camera is not all what you see or whatever, like like
Hmm.
whatever that saying is, like Photoshop's a thing. Like that's
Hmm.
how those insane beauty standards are created. Like freaking Kim Kardashian and those people having strangest body proport not the most natural body proportions, and people trying to live up to those standards to fit in. Like so it does age really matter at the end of the day? Like you could
I don't
always
know.
use a filter and cover it up if you wanted to, truly, like how social media can be used. And I mean also like in Hollywood, like I feel like if you're able to market yourself to the demographics that people are looking for, you're able to
Hmm.
survive. Kind of like what our creative guests have said, like you have to build your niche to be like wanted. I think
Hmm.
that's a similar thing in social media. Like you see like people like, okay, so the Euphoria cast, great example.
Yes.
They play 16-year-olds, but they're all like 25, 30, and like that's why the scenes that they do are legal. Like
Right, right, right.
like so it's like it really is age a matter. I feel like it's just a social construct at this point, like for like to degrade someone, like for women, and like, oh, you're almost 40, like, oh shoot, like it's just
Yeah.
40. But I feel like it's just like a social construct more than like it could, and it helped, I guess it does determine and to some degree, but like in social media there are ways to hide that if you really wanted to, just
No,
like
I
plastic surgery does for
that's true.
Hollywood.
That's true. And it's like a lot less money for a lot more. I mean,
Right.
I get it. No, no, that's fair. And I guess we're not giving enough credit to the variety of influencers that are out there. Like maybe
True.
in our head, we're only really like follow. Again, it's the algorithm, right? Like we only see what we only see what we click on. So I mean, I think with social media, there's also a positive side to it, in which like there are more accessibility and
Oh,
more
100%.
like, there's more awareness now, especially with the pandemic having hit. Like everyone was just kind of on their phone for a very long time and a very large periods of time. And again, an introduction of like TikTok and like that kind of, like, it's just easy consumable content. And I think because of that, there have been a variety of influencers, a variety of people, body types, whatever, who have been coming out. And I think in that way it is good to see. So I don't know, I mean, like, I think the traditional sense of the influencer is like diluting itself a little bit.
Right.
But there's still kind of a pressure to like fit into a certain one group or the other on social media, just across the board. That feeling is still there.
Right. Yeah, we definitely have to focus on the positives too, like you
Hmm.
said. And I think that's like what you brought up, like anybody can start their platform. Like anyone who has a voice that they're passionate about sharing can start one. I
Hmm.
think that's a great thing about social media, like you said. Like that's how our podcast kind of got picked up.
Yeah.
Just randomly posting like whatever we're doing on social media to like garner the platform that we wanted. So we definitely have to give credit to social media for that. And you're right. I feel like the idea of an influencer is definitely changing, or a presence on social media. Like nowadays, I think after the pandemic, I noticed this a lot more, that like when a movie is about to be released or a project is about to, they create an Instagram page for it where they'll be like, so
Hmm.
you can kind of get an insight, and it kind of like connects you to like the platform itself, so you feel like you're more closely connected to like the cast or like what's going on behind the scenes of a film, for example, through social media versus kind of just seeing it marketed on like shows or platforms or products, how it was traditionally done before social media.
No, right. And I think it's kind of interesting. Actually, I have, so if anyone has been listening so far, they know that I'm a film nerd. I'm a film
Yeah.
nerd. Guys, it's bad. Like, I listen to podcasts that literally just talk about film politics. But anyways, on this other podcast that I'm listening to, they were talking about how the film industry have had to like essentially change their marketing strategy in order to appeal to the people and get people to watch the shows that they watch, because because of the streaming services and the fact that everything is available online with a click of a finger, you like and the fact that like all the marketing and the trailers, they now have to be projected on social media. There's no TV, right? There's no TV to
Right.
advertise the trailers and advertise the movie. Like there's no thing that
Like
people will
cable's
constantly.
gone.
Yeah, cable's dead, guys. Like welcome
Like
to the new universe. Cable's dead, and the only thing that cable will allow for is sports now, and maybe the occasional award show, which is
yeah.
horrible. It's so
Yeah.
sad. And the news, like who watches the news? So it's really sad. Like they've had to um, just like look at the marketing side a little bit differently, and make everything available, and really like 30 seconds, that's all you have, right, on social media. You have 30
Yeah.
seconds to get people to click on it, and then that's the attention span now. So yeah, it's very interesting that, and because the Oscars is happening next week, March 27th. um a lot of these films are now on streaming now because they want people to watch. They want people to see it at least once. And it's just interesting that the whole industry is now shifting itself in order to accommodate for this giant social media. The dilution of
Right.
content. Like it's bad. It's scary. It's
Yeah.
scary.
It's scary in the fact that it's truly beyond anyone's control, like what
Hmm.
how social media controls the markets. Like if you really think about it, it is determined, like from a tech standpoint, it's determined by like the developers or the
Hmm.
company itself pushing out features, and that is what's determining like bunch of markets, like not just the entertainment industry. Maybe like other industries are determined by how social media is garnered or the attention that social media gets. And that's like, if you think about it, it's like only like a small, it's like it's companies, that's it, like three major companies are determining like world markets. And that's just,
Hmm.
to me, that sounds so scary, just in the fact that tech is widely known to be not the most diverse place in the world, and it's like all these white guys and these big companies are determining like people's livelihoods or careers, and they have so much power, and no one is like, or there are people now trying to like regulate it and put laws into it, but right now there's no like formal like way to control it. It's just like a monster or an infection just getting bigger and bigger. It's like a
Hmm.
COVID variant, like just it's insane to think
No.
about. Like,
Hmm. No, it's crazy. It's crazy, and I think we mentioned this earlier on a different episode, but like the fact that it literally has the power to change your opinion, and the fact that we're all so addicted to it. Like, dang, like can
right?
you imagine going like I feel like so it was a joke, like I think in Rick and Morty, because I was watching it the other day, but it was like I think Rick goes, just you wait, Morty. Let me show you how I can destroy this planet by changing the one to a zero. I'm gonna change all ones in this entire planet to a zero, and let's see how fast this goes down. And it's just a montage sequence of like all these things going wrong, and the planet basically getting destroyed. It was an alien planet of sort. I don't know. It was something stupid, and I was like, you know what? Like honestly, like take that and apply it to social media. One virus to Google, and we're all screwed. Is all I'm saying. One virus. It's all
Yeah,
it takes.
I think last week Spotify was down. Yeah, Spotify
Oh,
was
really?
down for like a good couple of hours, and like Twitter blew up. People are like, "What do I do?" It was like they're like, "What do I do now that Spotify?" And then recently, I Google Maps went down for like 2 hours,
Jeez.
and
Oh,
I
jeez.
was I was actually like driving somewhere, and I like needed Google Apps, and it just kept on rerouting and like blanking out. I'm like, where do I go? And I didn't realize how dependent I was to like technology until that moment. I was like looking at Twitter like to see people's comments. I like love to look at the tech threads
Yeah.
and during the moments like this, and they were just like, it's so funny how controlling these apps are for us, because like it was down for like what, 2 hours, Google Maps, and like over a
Hmm.
billion people were just lost. Think about it.
Yep.
Just a billion
It's
people
like,
were lost for 2 hours. Like,
well, and it's also wild because like, can I just say, like when we were born, we were born 99, 98, right?
Mhm.
99? Nine, both of us are 99. Literally, like we had maps back then. There was no Google.
Right.
Like this is
Your
so
parents had to
recent.
like plan it out like before getting into the
Yeah,
car and like drawing out
right.
the lines and everything.
And they're like doing the whole like trying to figure out where the highways meet and like do all this stuff. Like that wasn't that long ago. The fact that it's
Yeah.
so rooted, like it's so fast, it rooted itself into our society so quickly, and it's kind of horrifying. Like yes, it's accessible, and yes, it's allowing for like a flexible business model. Like you can work anywhere you want, you know. And honestly, if we didn't have the internet and like everything that we have now with the pandemic, like I don't think like I
Oh,
think we would have gone insane. We would have gone
yeah.
insane.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so like in that way, like it has like a really positive impact, but also like dang, we are so reliant on this shit. It's crazy. It is why it's like it's an addiction. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. And I think just with the fact of us all being human, a lot of the issues that are like prevalent in society kind of just bled into social media and kind of
Mhm.
hyper viralized like on social media. I think that would be a good segue to talk about like I guess the effects of social media on different like viewpoints, because we were talking about this before hitting record, like TikTok,
Yeah.
the influencer, the algorithm, the unconscious bias on apps are really big drivers for a lot of people who have a livelihood on social media. And so, yeah, like, I think it would be like we should maybe start like talking about those too. Like maybe like with TikTok, it's TikTok.
It's a beast. Like social media is a beast,
Yeah,
and then TikTok came along, and it was like, hold my beer. It's like
yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's
yeah.
crazy. So
Oh,
no, I mean, like, okay, and we should preface: neither of us are actually on TikTok, so we like,
yeah.
who are we to really like judge, you know? But at the same time, like, oh my god, it's a beast, and I don't know. I think so. I have friends who are on it, and I have certain friends that are on different portions of TikTok, and the portions of TikTok that they seem to be on is very like, here's an artist that does like really cool like, you know, artistic styles, and it shows like a time lapse of their videos, or they're on book talk, you know, like a lot of these authors are like being highlighted and represented in these TikToks. I'm like, okay, cool. Ratatouille musical TikTok. I mean, like pure creativity. Have you heard about this? Like, I'm
No.
sorry, it's so fucking cool. Like, because I think it happened like in the very beginning of the pandemic. But it's like basically there was like one TikToker, someone of the sort, who was like, we should have a TikTok music. We should have a musical for Ratatouille the movie. And then people started re-tagging it and basically writing music for this supposed musical. So all these
Holy
like
shit, that's
musicians were,
cool.
they were, it's so cool. They were writing music, and then as soon as that happened, there were like dancers and people like, they were like, okay, we can choreograph some stuff. We can do some stuff with this. And they choreographed it. There was some set designers that started coming on like, oh, we can, you know, we could build it out like this. Like we could, it could be like that. We could do that. And then there was like, I think at one point there was like costume designers and there was like one idea that was like, oh, maybe we can make puppets, you know, like they do in Lion King. Like, oh, we could,
Oh,
and then they started designing like the the rat puppets and stuff like that. It was like a whole like it was like purely crowd-funded musical with multiple numbers and sequences, and I was like, holy shit, this is so cool. So
that's
like,
so cool.
so the fact that like there's a space where that is that something like that is like available, like that can happen, like a purely crowd-funded musical, like that's amazing. That's so cool that social media and a platform can have the ability to do that. But also it's only if you find the right corners, you know. The
Right, like I'm
algorithm.
always down for crackhead energy. Like I'll be
Yeah.
honest here, I don't do drugs, but I can do crackhead crackhead energy at times when I'm hyper. So I'm
Yep.
always down for that. Like I totally get that. Like it's always so funny to see what comes out of like the stupidest things or like the most
It's
unique or
great.
like cool things. Yeah. Um
But yeah, I don't know.
I was like I don't really use TikTok either. I just kind of like based on what I hear from friends and stuff. Like it's really nice cuz like I think the only way that I get TikTok is like people will text me like TikTok links and be like, "Oh, I thought of
Yeah,
you when I
yeah.
saw this," and it'll be like a quirky video or it'll be like
Hmm.
something funny. And so I think in that sense, it's cool because you're able to connect with people. Or like if you haven't, like, I haven't talked to someone for like 2 or 3 years, and then randomly they messaged me a corgi video, and I was like,
Hmm.
"This is a great way to get the conversation started." So I think in that aspect, I think like TikTok and social media, like having to be able to like comment or like watch like short videos and kind of reconnect with people is really good. I just can't imagine being like a TikToker like
Hmm.
as like your livelihood. Um, I know this kind of goes into like the sort of like so like the trends that we kind of see is like unconscious bias, what I kind of mentioned earlier. I know I heard it's a big problem still of white influencers versus POC. A lot of
Hmm.
times, POC influencers will create like this unique content, and then white influencers will kind of take it and try to make it their own, and take credit for it essentially, and then they end up getting more attention towards it because that's how the algorithm works with unconscious bias of what is more quote unquote popular.
Hmm.
And so like that can truly like that is affecting someone's way of getting money, and it's just like what we see in the whatchamacallit like real world quote unquote is like being seen in the meta world. And I like it's kind of upsetting to see that because it's not just like the difference between like race that's getting credit, like the white influencers versus POC. But there's also and like in the dance community, they're like professional choreographers, like trying to put out their work, and they're trying really hard to put out their work. But then like you'll see like a 10-year old come up with like a dance that's like
Yeah.
I don't know, like that weird like random motions that TikTok dances get viral dances come off in, and then they get credit for it, and it's just like it's like what determines becoming viral is unfair to people who are actually professionals or like in the field that they are. And it's just like TikTok ends up showcasing, I guess, more of
Yeah.
the people who don't really quote unquote try as hard, if that's okay to say, in
No, I
comparison
mean,
to like
yeah.
original work.
Original and new work, which is very hard to come, like, not hard to come by. There's so many that it's just hard to keep up with. Um, but I like you said, like it's all a numbers game, which is like kind of scary that like your entire life is literally down to numbers. Um, but sometimes I mean that is the direction that it's heading in, and it's really scary. I did have another thought on this, but I'm blanking on it. Oh boy. Um, no, I was gonna say there's like a lack of accountability, I think, on social
Oh yeah.
media. There's a lack of accountability, and it's I think it's really hurting the artists and the creatives that are a little bit like are more up and coming, and they're trying to really put their foot in the door. It's like I think more affecting them because again, it is a numbers game, and it's really I feel like everyone almost has to have like like a copyright thing on all of their work somehow. But there's really no rules on that yet, so it's a gray area and
Hmm.
can really leave a lot of room for like gaslighting. Like I can't imagine like being like, you know, a
Oh yeah.
small up and coming artist and then putting something out there and then like 2 weeks later someone else literally takes the same thing, puts it out there, and then because they have new, like more followers, they're getting more attention and all this stuff. And it sucks because I like it was their idea first, you know, but there's also no way to keep that accountable, keep them accountable for that kind of stuff. It goes under the rocks, under the table. Which I guess there's really no solution to it, but it is like another downside with artists and entrepreneurs trying to use social media as a tool for their business. It's so good because it's accessible, but also at what cost, you know? At
Hmm.
what cost is are you going to be like you're literally fighting up current for a very long time until you get that big break. So, which can happen at any time, I guess, to its credit, you
Yeah,
know.
and I think IP rights or intellectual property rights is such a huge problem in the entertainment industry already, like with the like example music industry with the ability to sample music, but then
Mm,
also people like trying to take inspiration from songs and not properly credit people for the work that they do. Like there's already so many problems with IP rights or in credits, and I think social media is just as hard. Like I feel like there is a solution. It's just I'm not a lawyer. I don't know anything about this, but they need to regulate or figure out a way to be able to take like intellectual property rights or like you said copyright or like quote unquote something equivalent to a patent, because it really does, it doesn't just affect influencers, it also affects entrepreneurs or business owners who are trying to sell a product solely on like on social media, or like their main marketing platform is social media because they don't have enough money to market on other platforms, right? So it's like
Right.
people will try to take advantage of that because social media is a free app. So not a lot of people have the empathy to understand how hard it is to promote a product, maybe also
Yeah.
an expensive product, like we kind of talked about before the taping, on like a social media platform. And people will try to take credit or copy business models and stuff like that. Like as much as we see it in the real world, it does bleed through and is like very like Adderall driven in social
Yeah.
media.
It's very quick.
Yeah, it's
um
like I feel so bad for entrepreneurs. Like I know we talked about this before too. Like products they'll like have to set it at like a really expensive value because that's just like how what will make it affordable for them to like get
yeah.
profit. But people just don't understand like what goes behind making a product, because social media is so like you can get any resource you want at like in within like a click of a button or a search.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think like you said, like people just like take it for granted, like how much effort is involved in making something from scratch. I don't think people
Mm-hmm.
understand that. Um and that's like I think just that idea that that everything, I think because there's so much quote unquote content out, people are now equating accessibility to like like efficiency, like oh, you can crank these out real quick, right? Like they're not
Right.
respectful of the artist's time. They're not respectful of like how much thought went into something, and therefore they feel righteous, self-righteous to complain about, you know, a price of a product, especially when it like, and it's really funny to me because I'm like, you are literally coming here knowing that this is something unique, something different, something that you're seeking this out, and yet you don't understand that there's a monetary value attached to it. Like you know,
Right.
creativity has worth. Like you need to understand that. And I know a lot of smaller artists that do struggle with that and don't see everything behind it. Um, which sucks, you know. Like it's really awful to have to fight that on a day to day basis. Um, and again, really claw your way up and out, which sounds, it's bad.
Yeah, and just as much social media affects like the people's like anxiousness to get something right away or like benefit off something immediately. Like Amazon Prime also affects, I guess, business owners too. Like Amazon will give
Hmm.
you to you your next day or even same day delivery, like that option. You won't get that with small business owners, of
No.
course, because they're not companies. They're not corporate in the corporate culture just yet. They're still working their way up to that. So it's just like it's so unreasonable. Like the social media, I feel like the social media has affected people in like behavior in the fact that they're like instant request, instant reward. And
Hmm.
that's such a dangerous thing. Like sometimes, side note, I get so like uh triggered when I see like a 3 year old with an iPad. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
bro,
Yeah.
this is bad. Like, oh my god, like this person is going. They're going to become very impatient people. I feel like you know that one experiment where the parent will put like a marshmallow or like something incentivizing to the
Yeah.
kid,
Uh-huh.
and is like, if you don't touch it, eat it, or don't like play with it for an hour, I'll give you one more. That concept is going like of like children waiting to like get harder and success. I feel like that's gonna lose because people are just like, oh, the kid's crying, let's hand an iPad, and it just stresses me out so much.
Yeah, like for sure my kid will not do that. I will give
A
them a
hundred
book,
percent.
okay? Like I will give
Go
them a
play
I'll give them it.
outside.
I will give them, you know what? You know what I'll do? I'll give them the first Harry Potter book and be like, "You don't have to like it, but here."
If you do, there's
I
like 12 more
Yeah,
books.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Like,
don't worry about it. Yeah, you know. No, but no, yeah, it's really scary to me though that it's starting so young too. Like it's like, why are we
that
doing
addiction
this?
is like, like you were giving them an addiction behavior at like what 3 or 4 years old and like
Look,
took.
what would you give them coffee? You know, like it's the same
Exactly.
thing. You know, it's the same thing.
Or would you give
I
them
don't
candy every time they wouldn't shut up? Like, no. Like, why would give
know.
them an iPad?
It's wild. It's crazy. Yeah, my kid will not be getting a phone until I got it, which was I think I got a flip phone in middle school and a smartphone in like
Yep.
eighth grade. Eighth grade, freshman year of high school. That is when they will be getting a smartphone. Sorry, or maybe I'll give it to them middle school. Okay, I'm not mean. I'll give it fine, but
I remember
definitely
getting like
not
the
before
cheapest
that.
phone in middle school
Yeah,
or high school. Like it was just like bare minimum. You could like text your friends, call, and maybe use
hmm
like
the
50
flashlight.
gigs of mega of like data. Like that's it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
flashlight.
The flashlight. I had so I didn't even have a flip phone. Okay, I because flip phones were the cool shit back then. No, no, no. I didn't
That's
even have a
right.
flip phone.
Yeah.
I had a phone that just sat there, and it had a flashlight attached to it, and I thought it was the coolest thing because I could read under my covers, but like have my phone on the
Yeah.
thing. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, crazy. I also there was like a little like music app or something where I could like press like like music notes and like arrange pieces and then it'll do like a little ding whatever, like it'll play it for me. I did that. I programmed in like TikTok, or not TikTok, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, like Mary Had a Little Lamb, and I was excited that that was my ringtone. Like that was where I was at middle school.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So
Yeah, I totally remember that.
great times.
I think at one point everybody around me had phones and I didn't. And I think that's when the iPod Touch just came out. And I was like,
Yep.
I would try to find like all the free apps where you can call with the iPod Touch or whatever that
hmm
Apple device was. And man, the links that I had to go to make a iPod a
I know.
smartphone. Just
the
like,
lengths that I the lengths that we had to go to download music, like come
oh
on.
my god, yeah.
So much effort. But yeah, no, I not to get like all nostalgic or whatever. Again, I'm not cynical. I think social media does have like its place in the world. It just needs like a lot more regulation and a lot more like accountability. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. And just kind of looking at it from like a tech standpoint, I feel like if there's more regulation or ways to kind of mitigate all the cons that we kind of talked about, like it could kind of bleed over into other areas of tech. I feel like because it's not just unconscious bias is like everywhere. It's because the people who are making all of the tools that we're so reliant on, they're not the most diverse or well
No.
like nice people. Are the people who let me reframe that. There are nice people in tech. The people controlling, the people who have the money to control those types of people aren't the nicest people. So
No.
it's like if we can get power in numbers to kind of figure out how to approach this, I feel like it'll like if we start with social media, a whole lot of things would be easier, in my opinion. I know we talked about this off camera too. The Twitter versus Facebook. We were trying to see which one
hmm
was worse.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
listeners, if
yeah.
you have an opinion, please let us know. Um, but like we were talking about, like just regulating content on like those types. Like Twitter now just recently rolled out a feature of you can downvote or like downvote like a comment in a thread if it's like spreading false news or if it's very
Aggressive.
toxic or it's aggressive. And Twitter will then kind of review the comment and then make an action. I don't know what they're basing their, I guess, if it should be downvoted or not on, but like it's a good start in comparison to like Facebook where like you could get like news of joining a cult and that's perfectly okay on Facebook because they'll just continuously circulate all these news about that, like of the
hmm
crazy shit that's happening in like dark worlds beyond what we kind of know. And it's like it's not regulated, it's not cared for because it's quote unquote freedom of the press.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, well, and again, like you said, like, um, so I think the algorithm does play a huge part in these social media. Like, I think it's like easier to see the algorithm in TikTok because it's so like it's literally like you could see it happening.
Right.
But Facebook and Twitter also use similar algorithms, right? Like they and Instagram and all the other social media, everything that you can ever think of, they use an algorithm and they base it off of what you're searching on Google or what you're searching on your phone or at text. They read text, guys. They read text. I know this for a fact. I know this for a fact. They read text. I won't tell you why, but I definitely like. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. It's like why?
It is
How?
scary, yeah.
That's horrifying. Like what the hell? Um, yeah, I don't know. I tested it out. I was telling Kirti like earlier, but I tested it out and I started like bookmarking Twitter tweets that I usually wouldn't bookmark. Like things that I just like really like off base. Like I would never like I don't know, like just super like basic tweets, right? Like I was like bookmarking them. And then as like a day or so went by and it started like changing the way like the stuff that I was getting was very like boring stuff. I was like, this is stupid. I was like, oh, okay, so this works. Great, good. Um, but it's because like I'm usually on like film Twitter. I'm like in the weird corners of Twitter, like film, like TV shows, celebrities, stand-ups, YouTubers, like that's where I'm at. So like every time like I get something that's like super like normal, I'm like, oh, ew. X out. I don't want this. No one get me off of here. This is not where I want to be. But yeah, it's interesting. I was like testing it out. I was like, yep, it's right there. Yep. Mm-hmm. You can really easily switch your entire profile to like all like opposite standpoints if you really tried, you know?
Yeah, I mean that. I guess that shows that social media is working. Like it's doing what it's supposed to.
It's
But
up and
like,
going, guys. Yep.
yeah, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like at those extremes that are like like it's like hard to control. I think going back to the original topic. Sorry, I kind of sidetracked us.
No. Go
Um,
ahead.
but that algorithm affecting creators and creatives, um, it's it makes you question how do you produce content
Mm-hmm.
at a level or at a balance, like how much do you appease the platform of people that you've built versus producing your own content in hopes of people accepting it. that
Yeah.
that just is a question that I kind of bring up because like what at what point what is real is kind of, not to sound dramatic,
Yeah.
like what is real, like what is authentic on social media at that point, because you're trying to make a living too, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think part of that, like I wish so I mean we've been talking a lot about like how people who use social media affect that, but I think it also comes down to like the companies that are helping monetize the stuff. Like I know for sure like YouTube itself does not give enough money and the price that they've set for the amount of views that you need and the amount of likes that you need in order to monetize off your work is like real low. It's really bad. It's real shit. Like I wish that like huge corporate companies like that were more willing to up the price a little bit and be a little bit more forgiving and and be able to pay the YouTubers or the YouTubers, TikTokers, whatever. Like I wish that they were more willing to up their price and allow for more money to come into these people's pockets, you know? Like I wish it would make it
like the
I
world
wish
is
they'd make it
nicer.
easier. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you know, I wish I would cuz y'all are rich, okay? You're like corporate company, like you can afford it. There's no way that you can't. You're telling like, you know, I don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I guess it's just like if you end up decreasing, I think just thinking about like if you end up like being more forgiving and you're giving like to like help those individuals who are truly trying to do
Yeah.
good in the
Yeah.
world, they're like, once again, they're a big company, they're rich, yeah, but at the same time they're a big company, like
Yeah.
millions and millions of people are using this platform. So if you end up becoming more forgiving, the people who are not really like using it in the way that you have envisioned to give people money, they will also be benefiting from this too. It's a
That's
weird
true.
like
That's
conundrum.
true. Actually, yeah, you're right. Damn. Yeah. It's a very idealistic take. Like, let's just give more money. No, but like who are we giving money to? That's good. Okay, yeah. Fair. Point
But the thing
taken.
is, like, I think what you are like trying to recommend, or like what you're like thinking, it's like it's a
Yeah.
good approach because I think so. Like, I people who know me know I love BTS K dramas. Like, I love
Hmm.
like watching things in different languages, and um, so I think a new trend in the entertainment industry in South Korea is companies will sponsor influencers to host shows on YouTube.
Mm.
So it'll be like, for example, like a star, an actress or like a singer will have like a talk show or something, but it'll be platformed through like I don't know, I can't. It's hard to explain because they're all Korean companies, but
Yeah.
like the company will be like that intermediate between the singer or the person who's going to have the talk show and YouTube. So you'll get one, you'll
Okay.
get the money to back you up, to market like stuff like that, and two, you're on a contract basis for that company,
Mm,
so you're getting a steady income no matter how bad or good your talk show does, and they are the
right.
ones that are taking the risk of making sure that your show is successful on YouTube so that you all make money. And I think that's a
Actually,
very smart business move.
yeah. No, actually, I think that is. I think there are companies like that that are similar here on like YouTubing and stuff. Because you see like YouTube companies that like almost like hire like, um, they like hire YouTubers to come under their belt, and then they like give them things and like roles to play and like things that they need to promote. And then as they're promoting it, they can also promote their own stuff. Like I think that is definitely a thing, like at least in terms of like sponsor, but maybe not to that extent though. I'm very foggy on the whole idea of YouTubing, to be honest. But to be fair, I think YouTubing was probably before TikTok. It like precedes TikTok in terms
Yeah,
of like content stuff. Like I think that's kind of cool that I like TikTok is just like YouTube on steroids at this point. But YouTube was the OG,
yeah.
YouTube was
Yeah,
the OG. It's the grandpa of putting out content and creative things. So I mean, I think it's good. They're getting there. Hopefully,
yeah, I
we
think
just need
like
regulations. That's all.
yeah, like you mentioned before about having like to being more forgiving to those who are trying really hard. I think that would be a great opportunity. Like if companies can find those like special people in the
Yeah,
weeds and pull them and like invest in them, that would be a great way of nurturing creatives in like
yeah,
in a social media environment. But
I can
yeah,
see it.
as we kind of wrap up, we gotta like wrap up this episode. Do you have any, I guess, any like final thoughts or anything about you wanted to share before we kind of hit cut?
Final thoughts. Social media is scary. I still think so. Not much has changed, but things have changed. I'm getting better. We're getting there. Social media, in terms of media, in terms of creative work, I think it's really great that people are have the ability to do this now. Because 20 years from now, or 20 years before, people were not that like putting your art on for people's viewing was very difficult. So now it's
Hmm.
very accessible and very available to people. And I think if you do have a passion or something that you want to put out there, just do it. Just put it out there. At this point, like you have nothing to lose
Exactly.
except everything. You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. Put it out there. Try it out. Don't get discouraged because social media sucks. And yeah, that would be it. I don't know. I don't know what else to
No,
say.
I agree with you. Like that was those are all the points I think that are super important. I think,
Mhm.
I guess, just to kind of end everything. Um, I think it's a great tool. It's just how you use the tool, and you
Mhm.
don't let the tool use you,
Mhm.
as cryptic as that sounds. Like
No, it's
try to
true.
utilize your resources for yourself, and I feel like that is just as hard as it is hard to do, but I think that is the best way to utilize social media, or kind of retake recontrol of what of how you kind of want to use it, even if there's like a bajillion problems with it,
Yeah.
like we kind of
Yeah.
discussed today.
It keeps your authenticity more too. Like you're more authentic when you're just being yourself on the internet as opposed to trying to appease like a certain whatever, you know.
Right, and if
Like
we
just be
spread
yourself.
that, yeah, and if we spread that culture, I feel like that could be a way to kind of change how social media is used. As
Yeah.
cliche as that sounds, there are power in numbers. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
but yeah, with that, I hope you all enjoyed our this episode. We kind of tried to wanted to do something a little different, and we hope that the different is good.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, look forward to our future episodes, and thank you for sticking with us till the very end. A good 48, 49 minutes you've been with us hearing our voices in your headphones, so we appreciate it so much. And with that, stay safe and happy, and we'll see you all in the next one. So before you kind of leave us today, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Ravi Ray Audio. You might have heard that our intro and outro music is a little bit different this season and is definitely upgraded to a next level. That's all thanks to Ravi Ray, who was our last guest in season 2, and he agreed to help us out with our music for season 3. So thank you so much, Ravi Ray, for all your help. And if you guys want to get in contact with him to collaborate with any projects or work with Ravi Ray Audio, we are linking his information to the episode description so you can reach out to him or see all the other projects he's done. And thanks again, Ravi, and we'll see you guys all in the next one.